So thanks for joining me today, guys. We're going to start with Steve to tell us a bit about FSU and your position there.
Great. Thanks for having us. Yeah, my name is Steve McDowell. I serve as the Assistant Provost for International Initiatives at Florida State University. Florida State is a public university in the state of Florida. We have about 44,000 students overall, around 32 to 34 undergraduates, and around 10,000 graduate students. And we are a public and land grant. We fit into that space. It's a research-intensive university, and we've got lots of international students at the graduate level, and then a comprehensive kind of research, instructional, and service mission.
Thank you. And now over to Cindy. Hi, Cindy.
Hi. Thank you also for giving us this opportunity to share what we're doing at FSU. My name's Cindy Green, and I serve as the director of the Center for Global Engagement at FSU, which oversees immigration compliance and many other programs with an international focus.
Brilliant, thank you. So I think we're going to stick first with you, Cindy, and I'm going to ask you the question about internationalization at home. And what I'd really like to know is why you and your team really feel that internationalization at home is important.
Well, basically, as we move more toward a global society and employers are looking for students who can show that they've developed intercultural competencies and are ready to work on a global workforce, it's more important that all students on a campus have an opportunity to develop those skills. But unfortunately, out of a campus of 44,000 students, we only have about 5 to 6% of the students that have the opportunity to go abroad every year and enrich their intercultural experiences. So in order to fill the huge gap and provide all of those students who for some reason can't go abroad the opportunity to develop those skills, then it's necessary to set up internationalization at home activities and classes. And the fact that we have 2,000 international students from 130 different countries and visiting scholars and exchange students, they're already a rich resource on the campus. So internationalization at home provides the structure for setting up programs that allow these two groups to come together who otherwise would just pass on the mall and probably never interact. So I see a university as being a rich cultural resource for learning, both in class, but for me, in co-curricular and out-of-class learning. So that's why I'm a big believer in internationalization at home, because it serves all students and not just those that can go abroad.
Absolutely. And I think we all understand the immersive transformational experience of studying abroad, but I think it's that piece you say about bringing internationalization to the wider community that is so important, isn't it?
Yes.
So let's go over to Steve now and ask a little bit more about FSU's institutional approach to internationalization at home.
We're a large university and we have different units. And so our internationalization at home is really a cooperation between student affairs, which has student clubs, activities on campus, lots of different service organization and co-curricular activities. And then the academic affairs units, which are our academic colleges and undergraduate studies and graduate studies. And much of what Dr. Green does is in the Center for Global Engagement, which is part of student affairs. In academic affairs, we have some multicultural requirement so that all students will have to take a multicultural course. We have some other graduation requirements. One's called a formative experience, like an internship or service or leadership opportunity, and some recognitions, like we have a Garnet and Gold Scholar Society, which includes international experiences, one of the components of that. And the undergraduate studies office have an undergraduate research opportunity program, and a student research conference, again, allows students to get into academic work. So it's a variety of activities stretched across student affairs and academic affairs.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that with us. And of course, more and more universities are engaging with internationalization at home. But what would you say is the distinctive dimensions of internationalization at home at FSU. What's the secret of your success, and how do you think your students have benefited?
Well, I'm so excited that you answered about the secret to our success, because we started basically at FSU, unlike other institutions, as a grassroots model by people like me and Steve, who had a common interest in seeing more happen on our campus, as opposed to other institutions. Years ago when internationalization became like a mandate, it was a mandate from top down. So we really had the benefit of having people who did it because they believed in it, not because we were told to do it, from all different areas, academic units and student affairs. And we started with that strong base. Then in my area, since I oversee the Center for Global Engagement, I decided to set up a series of programs. We needed to provide a structure that brought international and domestic together, as I mentioned before. Otherwise, they wouldn't interact. So kind of following Milton Bennett's developmental model of intercultural development, we set up a series of programs designed to move students who might be with very little experience of intercultural interaction and acceptance of difference in kind of denial stage, and move them more to the right, to where they became more aware of difference, accepting difference, and valuing differences. So we have a series of social activities, cultural activities, then educational, then experiential. So the social activities like coffee hour are so easy for people to come to. And then they might become more interested and move to cultural, come to like Japanese tea ceremony, and then move to more educational, such as our Engager World Speaker Series with speakers from around the world on global topics. And then experiential, they might be a conversation partner, or they might be a volunteer in our Global Knowles program and serve as a mentor for incoming students. So that model has really set the framework. There's a reason behind our programming. It's just not sporadic. Then the other secret to our success is that in order to provide kind of a guide for students, we developed two different certificate programs. One is an academic certificate for students that they take 4 classes, one of which is a required class taught by our teaching faculty in our center, that gives them the basic skills of intercultural competence. And then they take 3 electives. But they also have to attend a series of these events that I just mentioned of the different types, and then write reflection papers. So through the course, they learn about skills, they develop skills, but then they have to go out and interact in different types of events and then write reflection papers. So students benefit in that way. Then we set up another certificate for staff, faculty, and grad students that's not for credit, but it is a series of 4 workshops. They also have to attend a series of events and write reflection papers. And as a result, they become more familiar with what's going on in campus and much more appreciative of the international environment.
Brilliant, thank you. That feels like a really comprehensive framework of activities from different levels, including faculty and as students, to really embed that culture and those opportunities. How exciting, thank you. So Cindy's made it sound like an easy system of interlocking components, Steve, but surely there are some challenges that colleagues have faced along the way.
Yes, certainly. And what Cindy described, an effort of building a network of supportive partners across the university, was really important. The other thing that Cindy did is got a new building. So the students would come to that place, and it became part of the campus culture to go to some of the activities, which she'll describe in more depth. I think the other challenges is in terms of university priorities, international competencies was included in our 2017 strategic plan. So that was an important challenge to make sure it was on kind of the priority list of things the university was trying to achieve. Similarly, coordination across units, since internationalization is so comprehensive, including internationalization at home, we only developed a kind of a common website connecting all these different activities in 2015. I think the other challenge is universities are often driven by our performance metric is student credit hours. And some of the activities that are so important for internationalization at home are co-curricular. And what Cindy's done in student affairs is really count and track participation in these activities so we can demonstrate student participation. It doesn't show up as a student credit hour, but it does allow us to recognize those types of activities. And I think our university has also really focused on student success in the last 5 or 6 years, graduation rate, and more people are recognizing the importance of co-curricular activities in contributing to student success and leadership and service and engagement, and also just staying engaged in their academic programs. So those are some big challenges, but I think as a group, we've really tried to tackle them.
Absolutely. It really sounds like it. Thanks for telling us about that. So how about the kind of national framework for supporting internationalization in higher education across the US? Do you feel that supports you and helps elevate this kind of activity effectively?
We're part of the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities. The big publics has an international commission, and so we're part of that. There's Association of International Education Administrators that includes both mobility programs, but also internationalization efforts more comprehensively. NAFSA is, International Educators and the Forum, and Cindy's staff present regularly at the regional NAFSA, and also we have at our state level, the Florida Association of International Educators. So we're engaged with those associations. The federal government also provides assistance through Title VI centers to try and enhance international engagement and outreach in the community. And again, as part of our strategic plan, we've created an international advisory committee for the last 3 years at our university. And that really helps us talk to faculty and staff and academic leaders across the university and share information. Since we are such a diverse organization.
So that sounds like a good range of networks to be plugged into at both a kind of national, local and institutional level. Brilliant, thank you. So now, of course, at the moment this year and last year, we've been so consumed by our efforts associated with the global pandemic. I wonder if you could share with us what you feel we have learned or what benefits or the shortcomings of that are for internationalization at home in your context.
Well, there have been benefits and there have been challenges. What we were surprised about was that we were able to take almost all of the programs and activities that we normally present for students and provide them remotely. And it was a quick learning with Zoom and how to register students and verify and admit them and market, but it worked. We were able to convert our international coffee hour, which previously had been in person, featuring a different country each week, and hundreds of students would come, international and domestic, and get a sampling of a food from a different country, students from that country hosting cultural displays, go into our dining room and our lounge for conversation. All of a sudden that was remote. So we had our chef who manages the kitchen do a cooking show with food from a featured country, and the student group would present about the country remotely, and then they'd be put in chat and we'd present the recipe if students wanted to make it at home. And then they were put in chat rooms so they could still have conversation with people from around the world. So that succeeded. We also found that it was a great benefit to our educational program, a speaker series called Engage Your World, which features like a speaker on a global topic once a month or every 2 months, but that meant bringing the person to campus and presenting in an auditorium with seating of 100. So by switching to remote, we found that we could have as many participants as possible. And we've also been able to include now people who are in other countries. And next week, we're having a former minister of the environment from Brazil speak about the Amazon.
Wow.
So that opened up a lot of possibilities, which when we go back to in person in the fall, we may still provide Engage Your World remotely just to expand the scope of the speakers and the experience and the number of participants.
Absolutely. That sounds like a great outcome, and some of those positive ramifications that we can have enduring benefit from post-pandemic. Thank you. And so I guess the next logical question is, what do you see as the follow-on steps for internationalization at home? You've got it to a great level already. What would you like to do from now on to take it even further?
Well, we would really like to expand our bilateral exchange agreements, our global exchanges. We have 47 partners right now in Asia and Europe. We would really like to expand into Latin America. So we would love to have more options for our students to go abroad. But the positive side for internationalization at home of an exchange is you're bringing in students from your partner institutions, and therefore you're bringing in more international diversity and more opportunities for our students to meet international students. So, and one of the programs that we set up over the last few years was a special academic program with partnerships in China, bringing in students for their senior year as a non-degree student at FSU. So it was a feeder program to graduate school, but it also brought in students in their senior year who added to the cultural diversity. With the shutdown, students from China could not get visas. So this year we didn't have students. We'd like to see that grow and rebuild that, and also reach out to other countries to increase the cultural diversity in that program.
Brilliant, thank you.
Many of the students had to undertake virtual internships this year because they couldn't go to internship placements, and we found that to be valuable. So I think moving forward, that'll be part of our menu of options for students, whether domestically or internationally, which will expand access to international engagement. One other example, I'm involved, my screensaver, you can see South Asian Media and Cultural Studies. We had a conference this spring. We've had some hybrid formats with some guest speakers in previous years, but this year we were totally virtual. But as a result, we got great speakers from Europe, from South Asia, from the United States that we would not have been able to afford to bring to Tallahassee. We also broadcast it on YouTube, and we recorded it and saved it, so that there's some real advantages. We miss being in person, and we'll probably go to a hybrid format in the future. I think the other thing is thinking about our next strategic plan starts in probably 2023 or 2024. We're already starting discussions about where does internationalization fit in our university. And again, a big part of that, our university's goal is diversity and inclusion. And that's, we've had a task force on that. We're really trying to figure out how we serve our community and how we serve the people of the state of Florida, the best as a large public research university. So I think starting those conversations now, even though we don't have to put it down in writing maybe for 2 years or 3 years, it's, I think, a really important next step.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's really exciting to hear what you've already achieved, and also to hear what your next steps are. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.